obviously, you must agree with me that when such budgets are presented to the House, copies are made. Copies of the originals are made. And so several members of the National Assembly, senators and members of the House of Representatives would be availed of these copies. So you cannot say that one person who has a copy of these originals is holding or keeping the budget, the entire budget of the House.
Did he voice out in error then?
Eh?
Did he voice out in error?
No. What he meant as chairman of the appropriation committee, surely there must be some issues that he's attending to in the budget. That does not derogate from the fact that he is having a copy of it. And it is what he's working on that he would pass on as what the committee is doing to the Senate. So that cannot be the budget that was presented by the president. So the fact has to be made clear that what Danjuma Goje is having is not the budget from the presidency. It can only be a copy, because by any stretch of imagination, he alone cannot keep the entire volumes of the budget.
So could it be that the part of the budget that was said to have been taken by the police were some crucial parts of the documents which he said he was working on, which the police spokesperson says no such documents were with us, even though we have 38 of the files?
Documents in Nigerian law today, documents can be soft and hard today. Our Evidence Act has recognized the admissibility of soft copies of documents. And so where documents are in his computers, they also pass as documents. So when you seize his computer, you are also seizing documents inside of that computer, assuming that there is no hard copy of those documents.
But at the moment, the way it turns out now, because Senator Itainan, the liaison officer, also released that statement saying that, well, yes, that this challenge has been sorted. And then sometime, that's where you now see these headlines popping up that, look, all of this is over and done with. But can we then really say that maybe they considered the relationship between the executive and the legislature so that it doesn't get a lot frostier than it already is?
Yes.
And so, please, sheath your sword on this one. Let's get the budget sorted out first,
yes,
before you cause any more problems.
Yes, I would say that is that's a possible factor that the executive may have taken into consideration. But as a lawyer, I would rather that the fact that there's an attempt at reconciliation should not becloud the fact that there may be some criminal items in some of those documents. And that portends that the police should also go further, not only in returning those items, but in also telling us that they have looked through those items and there were no incriminating materials. That, to me, as a lawyer, is very important. It has nothing to do with the fact that they have seized the budget. The budget can be returned if they had it with them, perhaps in the computer. But the police should also go ahead and state to us, tell us exactly whether there was any revelation of crime in those documents that were taken away. It won't pass for good judgment, in my view, if the police returns all of those documents without proper investigation, without coming out to say, we have investigated these documents and we have found that there is no incriminating.
What do you make of this? Because it does seem as if the tables have turned now. It used to be the first name we hear all the time is the EFCC carries out this raid. Now it's the police that we hear carried out this raid. Perhaps those in authority have now listened that the police is actually the right institution to carry out or champion this whistleblowing policy.
You say whistleblowing.
What do you think about that?
Whistleblowing is not necessarily restricted to EFCC. When it has to do with EFCC, it has to do with financial crimes. Whistleblowing can extend to environmental injustice, environmental degradation, hazardous factories, or all sorts of things. It could even be poisonous water. It could be wrong industry practice. It could be wrong factory practice or something. And the appropriate authority or agency that regulates the specific area where there is an alleged infringement would have to be the receptor of the whistleblower's report. And so if the situation does not include financial impropriety or crime, as it were, then there would have been no need to go to the EFCC. Police is there to investigate all other crimes, under the Nigerian Criminal Code in the south and the Penal Code in the north. Police has a wide range of responsibility in crimes, especially if you also look at Section 4 of the Police Act. They have every right to investigate. In point of fact, they even have powers to investigate financial crimes, but when it gets specialized, they have a discretion to refer some of those cases to the EFCC to handle them, because EFCC is more specialized and more trained to handle
the police, in part of their statement, also said that they had information that funds were about to move from his house, but they reminded us he's former governor, so they were also looking into that matter. So they had that information perhaps from the whistleblower and then stormed the house. So having seen all that has happened, is that question still relevant?
It's so funny. It's so funny that someone, a senator, wants to move funds he has from his house to another location, and it becomes a crime. That ought ordinarily not to be a crime. The police ought to reveal to us that there is a crime somewhere. Money is missing somewhere. And we suspect that this money that is with Mr. Danjuma Goje, Senator Danjuma Goje, is part of the money that is missing.
Whistleblower or not.
Whistleblower or not. And with the whistleblower, you see, there's another issue there. In UK today, although in United Kingdom, the whistleblowing policy with regards to employment is wider in the United States. Malice has now been removed from being a stumbling block to whistleblowing. And so in Nigeria today, we have to also ask the question. That is the more reason why we have to legislate it. Should you be looking at malice at the back of the mind of the whistleblower? Should he act in good faith or in public interest? Assuming that the whistleblower just wants to cause harm or havoc to the life of the person and goes ahead to ridicule the person by whistleblowing, okay, and there is no crime committed, what happens to the whistleblower?
Let's pick it up from there when we return. Don't go away.